All right, so why don't we get started? So I really appreciate all of you being here today. This is our the last event of the year. I guess we can't have any more. I mean, we can't have another month this year, so this is the last one. And before the holidays begin and all of you start celebrating that. So hopefully you have a wonderful one and look forward to a new year. Um, so we this for some of you who are new, we have been doing this interactive CISO roundtable for last since 2022. I think we started in June, and in generally we've done about maybe 10 to 11 a year. So you can imagine we've crossed over 35 to 36 to just to help out the community in the CISO community as well as mostly talk about all the trends, how the things are changing in the CISO profession itself, as well as all the new innovations and trends. And we've seen so many changes over the years. Even, it's like every day I think I was reading an article yesterday which said if you haven't kept up with the news of innovation for 1 month, probably you are in 17th century after a month. So anyway, I mean, I kind of made it up about the 17th century, but it said like you are so far behind. So these days, so that's how the innovation is happening. It's like it's amazing and it's mind-boggling at the same time. We as a we especially those who are in startup communities just like us need to keep up the pace with all the innovation, making sure we are also in tune with that. With that, so a key there are basically three themes we try to touch on these CISO roundtables. And idea is interactive when we call it rather than just a roundtable. We bring two CISO panelists and one technology expert in every session, and then we have a number of CISOs like Randy and a number of folks, as well as the startup founders, executives who are here. And idea is to have them also engage into participating as well as providing their insights and what they're seeing in questions. So that's why we call it interactive. And that also second is obviously networking professional. All of you can network with each other and continue to extend your professional relationships here. So that's the second part of it. And so so we started first theme is about the CISO's role. And then second, as I said, is the current topics. Like today we'll be talking about all this agentic AI, which is the I guess which is the trend of the year. I wonder what will happen in January or after Q1. We'll see. Hopefully, it stays the same. And then third will be any innovative solutions which you see in your environment or in with your customers when you see that. Okay. All right. So with that, let me introduce our wonderful panelists. Before that, let me just tell you quick. I'm founder of Akitra, which is also a cybersecurity compliance automation platform here based in Sunnyvale. That's where I'm sitting here right now. And then my background has been in security area. So this is, my first startup was about 25 years ago in firewall security company, which I started. And then so it was sold to Novell. And then after that, I've done Nina Networks, which was in uh, optical switching area. And then there was another small company. And this is the fourth one. So that's my background. And with our first panelist here, we have Arif. He's joining in from Toronto, beautiful Toronto area. So Arif, he's been in this whole, CISO and security world for a long time. So maybe it'll be great, Arif, if you can elaborate a little bit on your background with uh,
Sure. Yeah.
the
So I'll kick it off. So my name is Arif Hamid, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for CNR Software. We're an ISV in the credit risk management space, and we're part of Constellation Software. There's a very large Canadian holding company that owns over 1,000 software firms. I've been in security space for almost 20 years. Initially, I started my career in software quality assurance. I pivoted to IT audit, and that's where I built my foundational knowledge around security controls, testing, etc. I moved into an IT risk role within the bank that I joined, and then I moved over to another Canadian bank, worked as a business information security officer in the retail space, did third-party risk. Equifax had a major breach, and there was an opportunity to help with customer trust at Equifax Canada. Even though the Canadian entity wasn't breached, they were under a lot of oversight due diligence. I just did third-party risk at another Canadian bank, so I was putting vendors under the gallows, and the tables were turned, and I was in the line of fire too. So that was a good ride to kind of reposition customer trust at Equifax, as well as get the external audits back. Because any company that's breached, you got to redo your ISO, SOC 2, PCI. So I helped with the Canadian effort. I moved on to my first CISO role at Munich Re, where they stood up a digital insurance agency and helped secure those systems. And then I moved on to my current role, where I had security at this ISV. And it's we deal with a lot of banking customers. We don't sell security, but security is top of mind. And this was a divestiture, so I've dealt with a lot of challenges, and I have a lot of perspective, especially in the financial services space, right? Both on both sides of the end, as the customer as well as the service provider. And I look forward to this discussion tonight.
Thank you, Arif. I appreciate it. And then we have Barry. Barry also he's also virtual CISO at Silent Breach, as well as has worked over his career. Very fascinating story. What Barry was telling me when I was speaking with him last week. So, Barry, it'll be great if you can elaborate more on your background for the audience here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barry Kramer. I've been working in IT most of my life, just hit my 40th year anniversary in IT. I've been working in security for the last 30 years. I've been designing or developing information security teams since they started evolving back in the 90s. The last 7 years, I've been working a lot with specifically with AI robotics companies, helping them get their AI and robots themselves up to speed as far as the ISO standards go and securing them. I have a history and background in the red team, blue team, a lot of offensive security. Going back to the DEF CON and Black Hat conferences, I've been through that whole hacker gambit. So currently, I've been working with companies, getting them current with just SOC 2 compliance and the rest of the regulatory compliance agencies, and ISO 42001 has become a big deal this year. So yeah, I have a very general background in security. I've done just about every area I can think of. So there's nothing specifically that I would say I'm a complete expert at, other than perhaps penetration testing and governance.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Really appreciate your providing an in-depth experience. Yeah. So we have our third panelist is Ratnesh. Ratnesh is joining from a wonderful place of the Queensland, sorry, I mean London, Queen's country, and let me put it this way. So Ratnesh has been also in the, his extensive experience mostly from the product development companies, like from all the way from McAfee to FireEye to right now he's at Alpha Secure. So Ratnesh, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on your background
Yeah,
for
thanks,
everyone.
Naveed. So, hi everyone. I'm Ratnesh Pandey. I'm as SVP of SVP at Alpha Secure, and it's been almost 20 years with dealing with the cybersecurity. I've worked on like all major stream of the like security solutions, starting from whitelisting days from Solid Core, got acquired by McAfee, and yeah, was lucky enough to develop many security solutions from scratch and kind of scale to the 10 over 10 million multiple times. Yeah, it's been an exciting journey, especially learning across the stream and defense in the depth and making sure that you are like you work on more on the kernel side to micro virtualization side while my stint with the Bromium. And yeah, a lot of learning as a security researcher from the FireEye days and the Bromium days. I've also worked as a core security researcher for Linux and exploit platform in Microsoft. Now I'm working as a SVP for Alpha Security, primarily a cyber insurance company. But we are trying to solve a very unique proposition for our small and mid-sized businesses where they have they do not have that strong notion of the security and how they should be get threatened about it, and they're mostly worried about it. Like they don't understand any nuances about the security like enterprises does. They do not have a very big team to deal with the obvious challenges about the SOC and how to triage the alert and all those things. So for them, we are tailoring the solutions and security solutions in such a way that makes sense. So we are highly focused on the critical risk and how we can remove those critical risks of of the plate, so that kind of making the cyber incidents more of a like profitable business. So yeah, looking forward to discuss more on the agentic AI. It's a very niche area and a kind of a very strong indicator of kind of disturbing the cyber insurance industry in many ways.
Thank you, Ratnesh. Appreciate it. Okay, so with that, let's just dive into our first question, then we'll jump into the world of agentic AI. The first is like, how, I mean, more, especially I think more to Barry and Arif, and of course we'll love to hear even Ratnesh's insights into how more from as dealing with the customers. So, but the question is more on around the CISO's role, how it has evolved. You feel that over last 5 or 10 years in the past and now, and where do you feel it's going with all this rapid pace of innovation? So whoever wants to take it, Arif or Barry, first to start off with.
Yeah, I can take the first stab at it, and then so the CISO role has evolved. In the past, many organizations where you'd have like maybe security analysts that were elevated to security managers, it was kind of on the side. It was something to do, but it was not as important. But with, I guess, more and more data breaches, increasing regulations and laws around data privacy, issues around even the manufacturing sector with these OT attacks and availability issues, become top of mind, right? In many organizations, those that are like obviously public companies, it's a big, huge topic at the board level, at government agencies, other industries, right? The value has risen significantly, and the pressures are higher too, right? Where since it wasn't understood in the past, the level of scrutiny that the CISOs had wasn't at the same level, right? So we're at the table, but there's just a lot of challenges, right? Because it constantly evolves. Like one of the things I enjoy about our profession is that it keeps on changing. Now AI is the hot topic, right? In the past, it was cloud. It keeps constantly evolves, right? And we're always on our toes, right? And like I probably Barry can add. I know he's had a long tenure, right? And he's seen a lot, right? But I would over to you,
I've
Barry.
seen too much.
Yeah.
um, I've seen it evolve a lot from a highly technical role. Again, with what Arif said, where a lot of analysts were moved up into the role of CISO, it's much more of a leadership role now, and the eyes are really on you, where that wasn't necessarily the case before. Now the outside world is really looking in on security, and previously they weren't, it was just an internal component of a company. It wasn't something that it wasn't in the headlines. Now you're seeing CISOs in headlines. Um, that's totally different than previously. Where I think it's going to be highly AI focused. It's going to be even more managerial, less dealing with noise and more dealing with authentic issues that are affecting companies. And I think that'll be enabled by AI. The one thing that it's excellent at is reducing the amount of noise and input you get across the board. Um, but that's what I'm seeing with the role in general, is it's going from you still need the technical knowledge, but you need to work with the board a lot more and be aware that the external world is going to be focused on you. So that's what I've been seeing.
Yeah. Thank you, Barry. So Ratnesh, just more from your side, because you've been always in the product development side, I mean, development as a leader. So when you have, how have you seen the roles of CISO? Because I'm sure a lot of times you've interacted with them in selling your own products and
Yeah, I think
solutions.
most of my interactions with the leaders is like they're really worried about the unpredictability. So like the constant pace of the innovation that is bringing onto the table, and no idea about like how the teams are evolving and how teams are using the various tools and technologies. It started from the cloud adoptions days, and then now we have the agentic AI capabilities where it's very undeterministic, like how it could kind of temper your the whole ecosystem without even having someone any idea about it. So I think that the whole notion has moved like where someone clicked the wrong link versus like where the agentic AI itself is taking action behind the scene. That has been more challenging for them, especially in the terms of like how they can stick to the fundamentals, how they can stick towards the governance, how they can stick towards the traceability and auditability of those agents in place to kind of prove and monitor and govern that what exactly it is bringing to the table.
So
Well
thank you,
said.
Ratnesh. So before, I mean, I was just going to delve into agentic, but before that, at least I just want to call out some folks if they want to add in. So Randy, I mean, you kind of you've been breathing and living
Thank you.
CISO lifestyle for 25 plus years, right, from WebEx days. So how do you think it had changed, and how at the at the rapid pace it's changing now? So it'll be great to hear your insights
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it's
And a
pretty
little bit of your
interesting. I mean,
background, if you want to just a couple of
sure.
lines
So I
for the, yeah.
been in the IT space, similar to Barry, for closer to 40 years. Been doing CISO work for over 25 years. Um, and just thinking about back then, a lot has changed. I mean, we talked about more of the business side. Barry talked a little bit about that. I think personal liability is also concerned. We just got on a call with Tim Brown and Joe Sullivan recently to congratulate Tim for not having or having to have his case dismissed, which was great for him, but it took a lot and a lot of resources, personal resources, to get to where he's at. So that's one of many things that we have to think about. The three other things that I was thinking about is how the innovation of attacks are happening. We talk about deepfakes, where a CFO was deepfake on a Zoom meeting and made an employee to be convinced to transfer $25 million, for example. And then another person on a voice call impersonated a CEO was so convincing that somebody actioned against that. And it's interesting because those are identity attacks. Those are the type of attacks that we're used to before, but it wasn't at the scale and the innovation that it is today. So CISOs have to worry about that. On top of all of that, and this is what I want to talk to Ratnesh about after this, is some of the things we talk about is how do we maintain our budget or reduce our budget? That means we have to go back and look at our technology stack and reduce our spend to a point where we can actually invest in another area. And a lot of CISOs these days are looking at new innovative technology to replace all of the legacy stuff like SIM solutions, where requires a bunch of resources to put in place, logging costs and all of that, when AI should be able to make that a lot faster, a lot easier. So business side, attack surfaces or attack vectors are making it faster. So you have to think faster, you have to execute a lot faster than before. And then how do you reduce your budget to maintain your being a good citizen, executive citizen to the company where everybody else is trying to do the same?
Okay. Thank you.
You
Thank you,
know,
Randy.
I,
Go ahead,
I've
Barry.
seen something directly around that because the very fact that the noise is being reduced from, let's say, the number of false positives is being reduced. Because of that reduction in noise, it's increased the attack vector clarity. Like there's new ways to attack that are much cleaner. The same noise reduction applies to attack vectors as it does to defense and alerting. And I think that's what Randy, you're pointing straight at that. Couldn't agree more. Um, and the fact
And
that people are personally liable for some of the security issues is terrifying.
Yeah. That's why we're very happy with what happened, because now we have, a stronger stance as CISOs.
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, thank you, Randy. So why don't we just dive into the world of agentic AI? So my first would be, we'll start with Ratnesh. I think you've been delving it from your industry perspective and from security. So when you hear about agentic AI and security, one will be just to kind of elaborate more on what does that mean to you today in practical terms, right? So that would be the starting one. And then obviously some of the areas you can elaborate is how your understanding of it's been changing over the year also, since let's say early this year to now. Since
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of is like a buzzword and hype, to be very honest. But if you just look into the agentic AI, the fundamentally it's very same that what we did in 90s with the software. We had a huge pace of developing things, and we didn't even care about the considering the security angle of it, like when we were developing the software, and the industry is still leading with those vulnerabilities. We are still fighting for those, like how we can mitigate that part. But when it comes to the agentic AI, it has the both aspect. First, like how it can solve the problems where people were feeling bored about it. Let's take an example, like the lawyer's office going through the many documents and creating the case studies, and that has been very much simplified. Talk about the SOC analyst, like all the noise reduction that we used to get from the various tools and technologies, and the context switches that were happening, and they were SOC analyst primarily role was like investigating, but they ended up doing the triaging. So Agentic AI is really helpful in kind of removing those kind of noises, aggregating the context across the stream so that you have the proper case study without even putting a lot of effort and understanding that aspect. And then you can really fast forward and focus on the like low impact remediation, because then like these are low hanging fruit that can easily be covered by the agentic AI aspect, like whether people are not investing a lot of time and you're not building a huge team to deal with this kind of remediation aspect. And the third and most important part, like you can actually go for the continuous monitoring and continuous triaging without even getting tired. So like this is one of the beauty with agentic AI. If you look for like how it is solving the problem, how it is creating another problem is more about like when you try to build those kind of things and you're not putting a lot of thoughts around the governance, and you're not putting a lot of thoughts about the auditability. You have no idea about like especially about having rule of two in the agents and making sure that it is not going to take in one of the single session all three major implications in one go. That's something that where I think they will struggle going down the line, just like we did in the 90s with the software.
thank you, Ratnesh. And Barry, how about you? How do you see when you hear the word agentic AI and security? What does that mean to you from your as a practitioner, right?
Two things. I see a lot of AI in a lot of the products, depending on the company stack, whether it's Microsoft or CrowdStrike or regardless, they all have AI built in. Agentic AI, creating actual agent is autonomy. So you have an autonomous agent going after a specific role. So they're role-based tools. So you could hypothetically create one to do a specific task, but then again, it's like having a genie in a bottle. You've got to be careful what you ask it to do, because it's going to do that one task and exactly the way you've asked it. So when I think of AI, I think of autonomy, and having an engineer in a bottle, as it were, uh, to perform a specific task for me, whether that's cutting down the noise in alert management or even performing penetration testing. Um, I've had agents do each of those. So when I hear agentic AI, again, it's all automation.
Okay, thank you. Arif, your perspective on agentic AI security and what does that mean in
Yeah,
today's
so
practical
for
terms?
me, regardless if it's agentic AI or a person or some type of automation script, I meant that oversight and governance still needs to be there. One of the challenges of agentic AI is obviously, when you have automation, there's less room for error. But in agentic AI, the agent is making certain decisions, right? And a lot of that oversight and mistakes that could happen, right? Like how is it governed? And especially for back office, right? So typically you may have someone in the back office doing a certain type of function. Like I'm not really someone in the fintech space, right? Where our software has agents or others. Now, agentic AI would be doing that, but having those guardrails, like you may need a workflow. So, okay, the agentic AI has done this, but then you may need another additional type of oversight, right? Like with humans, you have insider risk, But if there is some type of security vulnerability, or if the agent was poisoned and it's doing inappropriate things, right? So a lot of those same guardrails that you would have with a person, you need to have that for agentic AI. So a lot of that is the fundamentals are still the same. It still needs to be understood, needs to be reviewed, but it just how it's handled is very different, and capabilities need to be well understood. And also, as a cybersecurity professional, I meant like now with vibe coding and development, things are moving faster. So that as a cybersecurity professional, especially heading a security organization, now you need to turn it on faster. Like, okay, the amount of development, like, I'll give you an example of vibe coding is simple, right? Okay, what human developers may have taken maybe 6 months, I'm just throwing numbers, and the vibe coding, it was done in a matter of weeks, right? So that now the security team has to speed up a lot of their reviews and assessments, right? So I think just the speed on both ways will be faster, right? Especially on reviews, right?
No, thank you, Arif. So we have some new folks also here. We have Manish. I know you're working on some agentic AI stuff. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, a couple of lines quickly, and then maybe you have any question for the panelists, or you have your insights. I know Manish brings a lot of strong background from security. Maybe you can just a couple of lines about yourself and insights or question.
Naveen, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in this conference. I've started my own company, Ferrenton. We are building an observability governance layer for AI, both for assistants as well as agents. And our product is essentially the AI Security Services Edge, which I pretty much built in my previous life at Zscaler and starting off at Akitra. So I'm bringing that nuance into the AI. So really exciting. I wanted to be a listener and listen in to whatever you're saying, but almost everything which you're talking about, the observability, how do you explain why a particular action was taken? How do you get humans in the loop, and how do you get agents to be authenticated using some kind of anchored identity? That's the essential zero trust access which you're building into a platform. So I'm happy to have a longer discussion, but I don't want to hog this. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
No, that's appreciated very much, Manish. So thank you for joining in also. So do you right now? I know you are obviously you've done a lot of research. Not that you have to spill out your beans or whatever you're building, but how do you think it differs from traditional automation or rule-based workflows? What I mean by that is agentic AI. When we say agentic AI today, if you
Yeah, so
want to at least a little bit, good to hear your insights.
absolutely. So the previous generation was about securing systems. We moved from the firewalls and the physical infrastructure as a perimeter to using identity as a perimeter. Now, the new mantra is intent is the new perimeter. Every prompt has intent. It could be coupled with a bunch of tools. And the question is, how do you constrain this? How do you make sure those tools can be managed? How do you make sure context doesn't grow out of whack? And most importantly, these LLMs, which are the ones which are considered the probabilistic and hallucinating kind, they can really use up tokens when they are working with these MCPs and the tools. So we're working with customers spending tens of thousands per hour. So we're augmenting the humans with agents, and these agents are not cheap. So another part of observability is going to be cost. How do you manage token spends? How do you manage the cost aspect? So all you CISOs know the famous CIA triad, the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability. Think of the new CIA triad for agentic world, which is going to be accuracy. Is the model good or good enough? What is the inference speed? Is it really quick, or is it going to take many minutes, which is the way things are? And the last one is going to be cost. You use the Opus, and that's $15 or a million tokens. You use something small like a Haiku, and it's like a few cents. So think about cyber being augmented with the new CIA triad, and that's the future we're going to going in if you're going to agentic world.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for that. I see Mr. Jernoon is here. Is also from the world of CISOs or the cybersecurity. Tony, we were just talking about the topic was more on the agentic AI and security. When you hear that, what does that mean? And that's where obviously panelists spoke. And if you want a couple of lines, you want to talk about yourself, and then your insights will be great.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I wanted to join in the conversation. I think the gentleman just spoke. I think it's beautifully said, right? I think we are shifting into a new paradigm. We are raising a child. And I think when it comes to AI, I think we need to think of it just like that, right? I mean, this AI, I try to break it down things I can explain it to my mother and my, younger nephews. And that is, if you're raising a child, right, what you feed them matters. That's data governance, right? We all change diapers. It's part of the job, but you just don't want to change more diapers, right? If you don't control the data that's going in, where it's coming from, is it trustable? Is it reliable? Is it prepared properly? You're bound to have all those hallucinations, everything that we're talking about. So the first and foremost is data integrity, right? What goes in is going to come out. So you don't want to have a garbage in, garbage out. The other part is the AI governance, which talks about all this new CIA triad I was just shared. And you want to make sure that as you grow your child, your AI, whatever that is, you don't put your child from the ages of 1 to 5, right? Early child development. You don't put it in front of, I don't know, MTV or you don't give him iPads. You hear that all the time because, once the child learns these things, once he learns the 4-letter words, you can't get it out of it, right? Similarly to that, I think we need to have a very good control about AI governance. And I think the future is not about better LLM models, is not about faster LLM models. It's about models that are thinking about trust, security, safety, and predictability being built in, being baked in. We won't have the chance to go back and go, I say cloud, you say security, I say endpoint, you say security, and I say AI, you say security. We have 50 plus companies trying to grab a piece, right? You see all the acquisition, $4 billion we're going to spend in the last 9 months, not counting CyberArk, in trying to solve some of these problems. And we're not even scratching the surface. We're not going to be able to solve it by adding stovepipes. We need to think about platformizing this, right? The direction has to be one of AI security platform, AI governance platform. And I think that's what the customer is going to demand. Everything we do has to be baked in. So the winner is going to be the ones that have ability to bake in trust, and they can move faster than the risk evolves, right? That's what's going to happen. I don't think single-handedly any of us have the solution, but I think culturally we have to change it. And the customers are going to demand that platform, right? We need to really think about that. We've seen this movie before. It's just this one moves faster. Is it 4x the speed? Four,
Yeah.
but it could be 40, right? So not a lot of fun.
So, I think Arif, you kind of touched base a little bit on that. So next, I think sequel to this same topic would be where are you? I mean, whether with your current companies or in some cases where you're working with your customers, where are you already seeing like agentic AI create real value in security or engineering workflows? So any use cases that you feel have moved from idea to production to talk about? I know we see some companies scaling very fast, but a lot of times what we hear is, okay, everyone is trying out these POCs and they're getting paid, but is it any use cases or any once you're aware of, if you can talk about, will be great.
Yeah, so I'll speak in generalities. I can't speak to specifics at my current firm, but what I'm seeing, especially in the as an ISV independent software in the software space, but you're seeing a lot of agentic AI, especially around DevOps, right? A lot of that, managing your production servers, you have issues with availability, like something's going down. Like a lot of that monitoring is, especially in that space, is huge. I've only mentioned vibe coding is also kind of getting there, where many organizations are looking to implement that and just speed the development, like aspects around, especially around product, right? All of these organizations that we need to kind of get speed to market, and the utilization of agentic AI, especially on like R&D, right? How are you developing your product faster? especially with software quality assurance. So you may have usual regression test cases, but as you develop new features, right, with the agentic AI, I mean, using those agents to help, do the testing piece, or that R&D is what I'm seeing a lot of, right? And many organizations are exploring different tools. It's still very nascent, and there's a lot of trial and error. But I mean, there's a lot of hype, but everyone is dirtying their hands, right? Because their competitors are all doing it too.
Thank you, Arif. How about Ratnesh? Where do you have you, if you can point out some case, I mean, not anything which is confidential or whatever you've seen and you can share will be great.
No, I think as I mentioned, and Tony put a lot of light on Manish as well. Um, it's evolving, like especially I can talk from both perspectives, like what SMBs are doing and what enterprises are doing. Like SMBs should probably go for like off the shelf, like this is what they are choosing, like off the shelf, like building agentic AI and all the kind of predictability and governance angle and observability pieces that we have discussed. These are very core and fundamental aspect of the building agentic AI, which I can't believe that SMBs are going to have. At the same time, if you ask me like how we are seeing that it is going to be very helpful, we're in the cyber insurance industry. It has been like a very traditional way of capturing the data while you kind of go and renew any insurance, like knowing about their security controls. You don't even care about whether those security controls are actually worth of it or whether they are properly configured about it, and there's no notion of having the continuous monitoring about their assets across the stream. Agentic AI is going to help you in that regard. They are going to pull that data back to you and just provide the right aspect and the right data for like helping you with the underwriting, helping you with the continuous assessment of the like your risk profile across the systems, and kind of providing you very great insight about your tail risk, your systematic risk across the stream, so that you are prepared for it, so that you know that okay, if any those kind of catastrophic events happening, like which area you need to focus more, where you should focus more, kind of increasing the premium and kind of incentivize the customer who are following the right principles and the right guidelines. So yeah, like I think it is moving very fast, and we are kind of moving towards more of like reactive assessment towards like continuous risk assessment and security posture analysis of the agents. So that's how I see like more on the cyber insurance side of it. But as a security expert, if you ask me, like, then yeah, it is going to be very helpful for all the alert fatigue that we kind of dealing with like last decades. So it is really going to be very helpful with the noise reductions across the stream. We have so many integrations in place, like I think the power that pulled towards the cloud adoption, and people are not even aware of the non-human identities rightly placed into the system, having given the more privilege that is probably not needed in the right place. It's not possible for any human to track all those like attack surfaces, no matter how big your team is. This is where like you can leverage agentic AI to narrow the scope so that they can focus more on the investigation versus the alert triaging. And the more you focus on the investigation, I think the investigation chunk is going to be larger, if you just remove all the noises and produce I think proper case study about any of that incident that are happening. So I would summarize more like I think it is going to um, kind of power the security intent as the machine speed. That's how I would say.
Thank you, Ratnesh. Barry, you across the industry, because since you deal with a lot of, as a CISO at Silent Breach, obviously focused on a lot of, the pen test and all those kind of exposure management kind of solutions. So you probably see across the industry. So have you seen these agentic workflows having impact in risk reduction? Or, I mean, what have you seen, if you want to share, like where is it delivering the fastest wins?
Wherever again, it's a reiteration of what Ratnesh said. It's noise reduction. Across the board, I'm seeing products that are reducing the number of it reduces the number of noise that you have, so that you have actionable items that you can pursue. And remediate, security issues. Log aggregation, vulnerability remediation, all of that. Because AI is so good at looking at large amounts of data, it can cut through all of the noise and give you actionable items. What I'm seeing it being used for is just that log aggregation and helping SOCs reduce the number of areas that they're running around and checking so that they're spending time on actual issues that they can resolve within a short period of time that have already been validated by the AI. And that is the number one use that I'm seeing it used for right now across the board. It's just being used for wherever you have a ridiculous amount of information, it cuts through all of that noise and makes it so that you have actionable items. That's what I'm
Thank you,
seeing.
Barry. Yeah, so we have Matt Haryana here. Matt, I know you're involved with these AI solutions. If you want to share your insights or something, I know you're on mute. If you want to, that'll be great. Looks like okay. Or anyone else like Randy, or you have
Yeah,
any?
it's yeah, if I can just add more to that. It's the biggest thing that I'm looking for is a full automation of programs. I mentioned in the Slack channel, DARPA came out with a study on full vulnerability lifecycle management. To me, that's where agentic resides. Where we're seeing a lot of the companies are at these days is how do we implement some of that and reduce our overhead or replace headcount, which I don't think we're there. We've tried some of that, it doesn't work. We're bringing headcounts back in. What I am seeing is the adoption of MCP. So if we look at MCP itself, since November last year, it's estimated that there's about 90,000 servers out today. That means there's a large increase in APIs. There's a large increase in non-human identities. The two things that come to mind are better asset management of MCP servers, what those calls are making, how those are, how they're making those connections. In 2026, I think we're going to see a lot of security programs revisit their entire security program and to help address more of the new issues that they're experiencing and some of the new attacks that are coming out.
That's very good. Yeah, very good insights. Anyone else wants to add to this? Otherwise, we'll move to the next. I think let's Ratnesh, from engineering side, do you feel that these agentic systems are reliable enough for real world use? If you can kind of provide your perspectives on that.
Oh, 100%. So I think the whole notion is all about like security in AI and AI in security. So like we have to see from the both aspect, like it's very, very useful for removing any of the work that was repeatable and could be automated in some sense, but it's not like automation is driven by the rules, and it is like more of like your agentic AI is kind of working kind of with more of a observation and region and planning and kind of going in the loop of actions and reflecting the outcome, and again just kind of fixing the problem statement here. The notion that is going to be very, very helpful for the team and the organization would be if they have constrained autonomy, because this is where that is needed, and that is kind of getting the full control rather than losing the control, and kind of defining the clear ownership and the full transparency. Until these three things are met, the trust factor won't be there. So it's more about like the ambition. So I know that most of the organizations are changing the agentic AI just being ambitious, like hey, like it's the FOMO, like everyone is doing it. Probably when we do it, like we can scale fast. That's not the case. I think that's a kind of a trap. So you need to understand where agentic AI is going to be very, very helpful before you invest on that part. So if you see the large chunk of the work is being done in such a like repeatable manner, of course there's a scope to put in, but then there's higher chances that the mistakes would be made and it is not being properly configured. It's very simple. It's the same like access management. Like if you do not put the least privilege access management policies, you would be end up kind of exposing your data to the world and of course the adversaries. This is the same problem that we have. So I think going back to the Arif, like the fundamental primitives remain same. So it's just like building the software and building your ecosystem and like fundamentally designing the system design principles. So it is stick back to the same thing, but it's definitely helpful for. And I think if I forgot, like MIT predicted that 1.4 trillion revenue that is driven by the tier one class of the jobs would be gone because that's kind of a more of a um, boring work that people were doing, and that kind of removes that aspect, and probably people can focus more on the things that matters most for the organizations.
Thank you, Ratnesh. So we I wanted to just see if anyone else, like I know we have Matt, Ravi here, Andre,
Naveen,
Yeah. Yeah, go
I
ahead, Matt.
I have one question.
Well, we have
Sorry, I
two
could.
Matts here, so I was
Oh,
referring
okay,
to the
sorry.
other Matt. No, no, go ahead, please. Yeah, yeah, I know
Yeah,
you wanted to
sorry.
ask
You
some questions.
referred
Please go
earlier.
ahead.
I
Maybe a
couldn't.
couple of lines about yourself, Matt, Matt Haryana or Murtuza. So please,
I'm
that'll be
not.
good.
So yeah, maybe just briefly. I've been involved with AI for the last 2 3 years. I was heading Silicon Valley's generative AI initiatives as well as Tycon. All the. But anyway, I guess and also had product labs where we actually deploy AI solutions. But the question, one of the things which we are seeing, and I'd love to hear more about is, agent to agent kind of security, because, when we are talking of agentic AI, it's not just one agent, but multi agents. And, what are the kind of policies, or what kind of noise reduction or security policies are you guys seeing for agent to agent deployments?
Anyone, Barry, you want to start off or whoever? Arif.
I'm sorry. No,
So do you want to
I'll
answer?
pass
Do
on.
you want to take on this? His question was more on agent to agent. What you
On
are.
agent to agent communication, I think the same security, you still need the same guidelines you would need between two engineers. It's really important to put those guardrails in place and the governance behind it. You're going to have the same issues you would have with human entities. You have to ensure that their security is in place for that communication. Um, Now, if you're talking about agent to agent communication across domains, across different companies, that's adding a whole new layer to the mix. But there's already a lot of cases where people are using one agent to create the guardrails for another. Um, Even Agentic is doing that. I'm sure you guys might have read about it. They have a vending machine app, and people were hacking it. So they were abusing it. They created another agent to keep basically a CEO and security agent watching over the first agent to ensure that it wasn't being exploited. So the two agents are interacting where one is governing the other. But still, when you have agents set up, in my opinion, the best way to do that would have been to create the guardrails around the first agent in the first place, so you wouldn't have to bring in the second. Um, but agent to agent communication, you're just going to have really solid information behind it. The one thing with AI is there's no room for error. When you create it, it's going to do exactly what you told it to do. Nothing more, nothing less. So if you tell it to uh, make sure that your budget is good, it's going to become an expert at budgets. It may not help you with the main goal that you were trying to accomplish, but it's going to be really good at budgets. So when it comes to two agents communicating with each other and working together, you just have to set the roles really strongly in the first place and set the security up around them.
Sorry, I'm just going to add to that, especially on agent to agent, like the difference on agentic AI over automated scripts is the script will exactly do it. There is a decision tree, right? And it has to follow that flow. But with agentic AI, as you're training models, it can make inference and make certain calls, right? That's where, there's an additional risk And what I would add is that obviously machine to machine communication, you'll have obviously encryption, session authentication, etc. But I would also add the piece around logging and monitoring, right? That
Yeah.
needs to be there. So I mean, I'm not aware of, and maybe there's individuals that are on this call of some type of incident response investigation where there was obviously there was some malicious. I mean, the Agentic AI agent got compromised, right? And a lot of that doing that investigation to understand what happened, what went wrong, right? And that's probably, especially I know you're in that space with silent breach, right? That's what we're definitely going to see a lot of down the line, right? Because
Yeah.
as I said, I mean, people are thinking this is a machine and it should do what it's told, but it
It
has
does so
issues as
much
well,
more than
right?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is not just
That's
like
why
you're running a tree with a decision tree. I mean, sorry, you're not running like scripts where it just, it's only black and white.
no.
There's a lot of gray
What
in this, and that's where there's a lot of additional risk that CISOs and especially the executive management, these organizations are pushing because, you want to increase revenue, decrease costs. So you're looking at agentic AI, but they're forgetting the risk, right? There's a lot of things that will come up, right? And people are not aware, especially at the business, the executive layer outside of security, right? Where they're just pushing. I need revenues down. I need to increase revenue, or I need to reduce costs, right?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
very.
totally agree.
Yeah. So I think Anthropic's research paper talks a little bit about some of the security concerns around agent
Yeah.
to agent.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth revisiting because it does talk about how some agents may call other agents. One agent could only have read only, but it knows down the path that there's a write agent out there somewhere. So how do you compromise that? It's a pretty interesting read. I read it through twice, and I was going to read through it again just to get some better examples out of this. But if I recall, yeah, their research paper talks a lot about that, which I think is worth reading if you haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, like
Thank
some
you,
I
Andy.
can add like a few things on here. Like it's all the fundamentals again. Security researchers have published many topics and kind of areas into and kind of more observations. Agent, like for example, taking care of like agent rule of two. When you have like untrusted
Mhm.
input and you are acting on a sensitive data and your agent can make external connection, always follow the rule of two. Means at any point of time only two things can happen, not three. And the moment you are going to, if your ecosystem allow all three to interact together, then you are going to put human in loop. So if you follow this kind of pragmatic approach rather than the hypothetical one that you just go with the like access to all, then you are in the trap. So and again, coming back to the like when you try to build all of those things, like you will think of same principles of composability. It's not like monolithic system that can act in by its own. Like it's well defined capabilities. Every time you add a new feature, it's more of like adding a kind of a tool to that rather than increasing the privileges so that your blast radius is constrained. And same like how you are going to take the control over learning. You have to make it like kind of a very offline way of where you can have the regression testing kind of suited, and every measurement and every I would say like any outcome that is can be measurable, can be repeatable, that makes sense for us. Like, and then third is more about like the software delivery principles. Like you have to be versions and you it kind of autonomy flow as a canary, because unless until you are doing that, you're not going to have the confidence, and the moment confidence drops, you have to revert back the autonomy. And it's the same principle that we have to apply. Think it as like a junior engineer. Like when you hire them, you give them the like strict responsibility, you give them the strict permissions, you give them the code review, like you go for the strict code reviews, and then you set for their promotions path. This is the same principle that we have to follow for the agentic AI development. So it's a fancy word when we talk about the agentic AI, but the fundamentals are the same.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I know we are on top of the hour, 2 hours, sorry, 2 minutes beyond. So I would just last question I just wanted to ask, and then we can see if any other ones, and we can adjourn. Hope you guys are okay with a few more minutes. So if you were to like stop, and if you imagine a year from now, what do you think security teams? What will security teams be comfortable letting agents handle that feels uncomfortable today? If you can kind of very short or some. I know we have kind of covered around all those areas. So let's start with Arif. Uh, what do you think? The
Um,
secret.
Depending on where some companies are in their journey, right? Some are like, okay, we don't want to do anything, right? So I would say in a year from now, a lot of the lower complexity tasks they will be very comfortable with, right? It remains to be seen some of the higher complexity tasks, right? Especially if there's a certain action that can bring down a system in production, right? Is always risky, right? So I would say like a lot of those other general, easier, lower complexity tasks, I see there'll be comfort around.
How about you, Barry?
I think that uh, I agree with what Arif said. I think in a year, the really simple tasks, the areas that are being reduced in noise right now, where people are acting upon those issues, those will be the first issues that agents are able to take care of themselves. The really low-hanging fruit. I think right now a lot of companies are still waiting to see where AI goes before they take action. They're afraid to jump in the pool still. Uh, I personally think that everybody should have already jumped in the pool and be learning to swim, but a lot of companies are holding off. But as far as what I see in the next year, I think those basic tasks are going to be what people trust. It's got to prove itself, and it's got to prove itself to be done in a way that can't be easily exploited, um, and within all of the compliance guidelines. So when those things are met, I think it'll start taking on more complex tasks. But the next year, I think it's going to be the real basic ones that uh, Agentic AI will take care of.
Thank you. How about you, Ratnesh?
Yeah, I think as Arif mentioned, it depends on the maturity of the organizations, which like where exactly they stand. But I think the most common theme would be like people would be laughing about like how they were doing the same manual stuff for years, which could have been really simplified by doing the agent, like using the agentic AI. That's like that would be like most common theme. Like we started with the Copilot last year, and we have like a very rich context about the data that we were seeing and the alerts that we were seeing. Now we have the agents that can reason, that can plan, that can act. The next time it is more going to be like we would be just laughing about the stupidity that we were doing for the years. But then at the same time, if you talk about the more mature organization and kind of enterprise ready people dealing with like more of in the security domain, let's take an example of the SOC analyst. They would be like building more of a very rich contextual data lake. That means when as a SOC analyst, when you act, when you put your knowledge base, when you put your exceptions and your kind of your day-to-day learning into the system, and the moment they leave the SOC analyst, the whole knowledge base has been gone. Like it's not everything is documented, but now we will have those contexts remain forever, and that would act as like a golden piece of jewelry for keep working in the similar fashion, even though the people leave from organi or probably kind of changes the organization. So that's where I think the context would be like become like a more of a richer as we grow, as we scale. Of course, there's no doubt about the credibility. Like, of course, the agent will evolve. I think it will boils down to when you talk about the like security in AI or probably AI and security, it will boil down to like whether we have that understanding about the governance and observability that we are building with the agents and how it can scale beyond boundaries, how it can interact with the systems, how we can drive the data, how we can provide the cleaner data to the system. So that we can kind of remove the garbage in, garbage out problem statement altogether, at the same time building the trust. So that's how I see it. Like it's a Arif is 100% right. It depends on the maturity of the organization, which stage they are, but this is how I think the common themes are going to be.
Okay, thank you, Ratnesh. Anyone else, those who haven't been able to participate, another Matt, I know Ravi, Andre,
Can
Akriti,
add
Apurva, yeah,
couple
just share an
points,
opportunity.
Naveen.
Yeah, sure.
So I think all the conversations said, you asked what would be in a year. I think the journey conversation matters, right? It's where people have made a decision that they want to use AI in its different formats, Gen AI all the way to agentic, right? And that has certain dependencies. It has dependency to trust and governance. And we have to go back to what was said, first principles, right? You talk about A to A, you're talking about securing your LLM, the user to LLM, and all the different aspects of it. We're going to see an adoption when the enterprise can have assurances that they can own their data or then own their agents, own their applications, and they can run it anywhere, right? I mean, that's one. It's going to be people who want a consolidation, that they want to platformize this, right? We went from antivirus and different things to endpoint protection to cloud protection. We're going to have to move towards a platform play for this double-edged sword, the AI for security, security for AI. We're going to see that. A lot of it has to do with, can I trust what this is, what this agent is doing? Who's running this agent? I'll give you an example. 15 plus years ago, when I was managing firewalls for Xilinx, I had my own change management that I had to adhere to. Somebody put a request, I opened up a port based on certain business reason based on certain approvals. Today, I can give someone an agentic that looks at the tickets coming from ServiceNow and apply those rules, right? If they're not high severity, and there's some chain of approval. That's not a problem. All of us can do that today. The problem becomes, what happens when something breaks? Who's going to be to blame? Who's going to fill out the corrective action plan, and who's going to be the one that has to be trained? Is it the person who invoked that agent? Who's the identity pinned to that agent? Is it Tony? Is it Naveen? Is it Ratnesh? And was it their fault, or was it the model, or who trained the model? Right?
Yep.
Those problems are problems. The NHI problem hasn't been solved today for cloud, certainly not for agentic. When we solve those problems, when we have a platform, and when customers see that they can gain in north of 50% productivity, north of 3 to 4% ROI for their agentic spend, with the auspices that they can trust it, they can govern it. I'll give you one example. I think we just need to go back. I love what Ratnesh were talking about, going back to first principles. When you bring these agentics, and I think Barry touched on it too, is, to me, just like back in the day, you wanted to do AD migration, or you want to create an ITAR enclave, you brought expert. Doesn't matter which entity, which they're all being killed by SAM, right, in the short future. So those folks that are contractor, consultants, and expert, when you brought them into your organization, what did you do? Didn't you first have them sign some certain piece of paper that they would adhere to your policies, that they would not use foul language? That's HR governance. They had to do that. Once they approved to that, once you're approved and they adhere to that, only then IT governance would come in and will give you access based on a need to know. Hopefully, it wasn't list privilege, but we suffered for that. We gave them VPN access. There was no zero trust. You provide them some sort of RBAC and blah, 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 right? And we did those things, and then you monitored. And then, yes, there was some expert needed. You went ahead and brought a different expert, and then went through the same process. And there was a hierarchy, and it was, a hierarchy of ownership and responsibility for the project owner and an executive owner. And then things didn't go well, you guys all got into some room, and there was kind of like, face-to-face conversations, right? So how are we going to do that, right? Where is that AI governance body in the organization? Where does it lie? Is it the CISO? I don't think so. Is it the head of governance? They're not stepping up for it. So we need a AI governance body, just like an HR, just like a combination of those. And we need an AI governance platform, just like HRIS has, right? I think those things need to happen. The promise of this is to happen. And if you can do those baked in, I can tell you that we are seeing that. We are seeing Fortune 200s adopting the platform that we're building with one use case all the way to 12 use cases that are running autonomously, because they expect us to provide that to them from the ground up. By the way, we have to do it in a world that we are already suffering for 4 million talent deficits in cyber. And I don't know what the multiplier is for AI engineers. And what's the multiplier for AI engineers that understand security, or security people who understand AI engineering? So this double-edged sword that Ranesh, you're talking about is a massive problem. I think it's a journey. And I think that as long as we continue to feed the market with the Me Too players, we have 50 different AI security players today. They all talk, it's kind of like a cleaning service that comes and tells you, yes, we clean your house, but we don't do the windows, we don't do the dishes, we don't do laundry. Would you still hire them? You wouldn't. You would kick them out. Then why are we buying these stovepipes of products? That's not gonna solve it. The RSA is gonna be 7,000 vendors, not 4,000. It's gonna be the same guys with the same patty with a little bit of a whipped cream on top on AI. We cannot add AI to existing processes, right? It has to be a vertical focus on outcomes. And if you want to AIify something, I believe that we have to think about capabilities. You guys talked about beautifully about noise reduction. And to me, if an agentic is trained to do false positive, there needs to be trained to understand the different type of data. It doesn't matter if it's email alerts, web alerts, DLP alerts, phishing alerts, whatever it is. It's an agent to understand false positives, and it cannot be a black box. It has to be something that Ratnesh and Barry can come and train under not best practice, but the best process for your organization. Same thing for IR. These are, I think, the first principles, Ratnesh, that you're talking about. And I think we need to go back to those. I mean, we're treating MCP as if this is net new thing. For crying out loud, man, it's just another API gateway. We've been trying to solve API security this is why Pangea got bought. Oliver said, you know what, you want to call it MCP security? I'll call it MCP security. Sure, he pivoted and he got bought, right? This is a problem that the VC world is equally at fault, right? And I've been part of that early stage. So it's a journey. As I said, we're raising this child, and it takes a village. And I think on both sides, the buyers, the builders, and the funders, we need to really think about where we want to be the next year, right? And I think having a promise of AI is going to come in and replace this and remove FTEs and whatnot. I've talked to organizations and said, look, if you come to me and say, I'm going to get rid of FTE, I'm going to kick you out. I'm already running as lean as I can. I cannot lose another FTE. That cannot be your value prop to me, for crying out loud, right? These are the conversations I'm hearing as a part of the conversation. But every day I'm learning more in this whole journey, and I think we're all learning. And I wanted to thank you, Naveen, for continuously bringing us and having this open dialogues to one another, because I learn every time I go through this conversation. So thank you so much.
No, we appreciate it. And looks like the conversation got you excited enough. Now it seems like your sickness is
I
gone
finished.
too.
I finished my
I was
drink. I'm
wondering
feeling
what you
better now.
drank when you disappeared for a few minutes.
You
So
don't know
anyway,
what's inside here, so
okay,
that's
I know
good.
we are over the time. I wanted to just call out other folks like Clint. I have here Matt, Hiram, and anyone else. If you have any insights, questions you want to ask, please. This is your opportunity. Andre, I know, and Ravi just joined. Looks like another Ravi, or my colleague here. He was sending me a message. I said, hey, if you want to get some knowledge, wisdom here, join in. So he's just. And Randy, any quick ones? I know some of the folks might be feeling
I mean,
hungry
I
or
can weigh
ready
in
to
on
sleep.
that.
Arif, especially in Toronto, 9 o'clock for you.
I would like to
I have
weigh
a
in a little bit.
pickleball game to get to.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt. You were saying something.
Yeah, I'd just like to weigh in a little bit. I think one of the best descriptors of AI I've heard is, and the AI agents are the most intelligent intern you've ever had.
Yeah.
And leave an intern to just manage itself. And I think there's a lot of risk if we have an agent managing another agent, because eventually those hackers are going to figure that out and they're going to get through that. And so it's weighing them out. I think there's a lot of value that can be brought into them, simplifying those tasks, getting a lot more done. But you got to be responsible. Echo a lot of what Tony just said of just like, where can we use these and how can we manage them in a way that really makes the organization more effective? But also at the same time, I think there's a lot of damage if you're taking it and just saying, hey, we can replace this FTE, because there are so many gaps and vulnerabilities in every organization that it's just going to help the teams that are there more than replace people. And I think it was echoed by multiple people in investors and the C-suite need to be more responsible and understand that it's not just about cutting costs, it's about building a more effective team with what you have.
Thank you, Matt. All right, unless if anyone else has anything else to ask or say, this is your opportunity. Please do. Ravi Lingarkar, anyone else? Clint, or Arif, Ratnesh, Randy, Barry.
Yeah,
Tony has got his 15 minutes already, so we'll
I love the
only
what
unless someone.
I loved what Tony mentioned. He mentioned the word black box. If it's a black box, it's a failure. It's a clear-cut failure. If it is not going to provide you the evidence, like why it is taken some of the actions, which you can share it with your insurance people, your leadership, or your stakeholder, again, it's a failure. So very beautifully presented the word like black box. Like I think until unless we kind of having all those like 4 or 5 things that are needed from the vendor. I think he was mentioning about the platforms like which can provide the explicit guardrails, which can provide like strong audit trails, business outcomes, clear ownership, and yes, dealing with all those nuances, which are the fundamentals has been so far, then it's not going to be successful. So really echo what Tony mentioned about the platform and the like how unified way we can just have some kind of governance in place as a backbone.
Thank you, Ratnesh. Derek, you have any? I think I don't know, if I forgot to call you out to see if you had any questions or insights you want to do.
No, I'm just here to learn.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so with that, I think I'd like to wish you all a happy and wonderful holiday season. Hope Santa brings you all the agents you are looking for, or whatever kind of agents, to keep you entertained. And with that, we'll see you in the next new year, especially at the next CISO Roundtable. And Randy, again, thank you very much for joining in from Philippines. I know Arif from Toronto. We've got folks from all over UK. Ratnesh, it must be what, like 3 o'clock in the morning. You
Yeah.
can, I think, go back to the pub if it opens now. And all right. Okay, thanks
Thanks,
again,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Have
Appreciate
a
you.
it.
Thank
wonderful,
you.
Happy holidays.
wonderful
Merry
evening. Okay,
Christmas.
bye-bye.
Yeah. Happy
Happy
holidays,
holidays.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.